Texas school board politics. Man, everybody's got something to say about it these days, don't they? You see the headlines, the debates. Everybody's got an opinion on what's really going on in our schools.
Yeah.
But are we missing part of the story? Today, we're diving deep into this whirlwind with the story of Courtney Gore,
Oh, yeah.
a school board member in Granbury, Texas. Her experience, let me tell you, it reveals a lot more than meets the eye.
What's wild is how Gore's story, like this very local thing, shows us what a much bigger, like, planned out thing is happening all over the country. We're seeing groups, conservative groups, trying to totally change education, and they say it's about parental rights,
Yeah.
and making the curriculum, like, transparent.
And every good deep dive needs a good origin story. Gore's is, well, let's just say it's a doozy.
Oh, yeah.
We've got these two super in-depth articles from the Texas Tribune and ProPublica.
Right.
They introduce us to Gore as this, like, outspoken conservative, almost like a warrior ready to fight what she saw as, like, leftist indoctrination.
Yeah. Yeah.
Taking over schools. She ran on this platform of fear, saying kids were being exposed to, like, inappropriate stuff and radical ideas.
Yeah.
And this wasn't just her quietly thinking this. She co-hosted this far-right talk show
Wow.
where she really pushed these narratives.
We got to remember the bigger picture here, right? Like Steve Bannon, remember him? He told conservatives to go after local school boards. He called these elections like battlegrounds in this huge cultural war.
Oh, yeah.
And then you have Rafael Cruz, Ted Cruz's dad, saying the same things like, local elections are how we can change the entire country. So Gore's story, it's not just some random thing happening. It's part of this big, thought-out plan.
So Gore, totally believing all this, gets elected. She's ready to clean house.
Right.
Dives right into the curriculum, probably expecting to find, I don't know, like Karl Marx's greatest hits hidden in a math textbook or something. But what does she actually find?
Here's the thing. It's the difference between what she thought she'd find and what was really there. That's what gets you. Instead of all this indoctrination, she's looking at lesson plans about, like, critical thinking, empathy, being kind, like, just being a decent person.
Whoa. Talk about a plot twist.
Yeah.
You can practically hear the record scratch when Gore realizes things aren't what they seem. And this wasn't just some theory for her. She spent hours, late nights, going through all that material. She even said she was looking for anything showing kids being sexualized in the curriculum. Couldn't find it.
And don't forget, she went into this as a true believer, absolutely sure she'd find some big conspiracy. So when the evidence showed her she was wrong, it made her look at everything she thought she knew.
Makes you think, what happens when someone's entire platform, their whole identity, is built on something that falls apart when you look at it closely?
Yeah.
Well, with Gore, that was just the beginning.
Imagine, like, your whole world just gets flipped. No wonder Gore started to question everything.
Right.
Even the people who told her to run for school board.
Like, wait a minute. Is there more to this than I was told?
Exactly. And that's where these local people being connected to big names, it's huge. Remember those billionaires, Tim Dunn and the Wilkes brothers?
Yeah.
They've been pumping money into Texas politics, specifically for people and things that'll help them get their voucher system.
Okay, so billionaires, political people whispering in ears. And Courtney Gore, our school board member, may be starting to think she's, like, a pawn in all this.
Yeah.
But how'd they do it? It's not like they're knocking on doors saying, get rid of public schools.
Yeah, it's way more sneaky. Think about that bond, the one Gore was for at first, building a new high school, fixing up the other schools.
Yeah.
Her old allies, the ones tied to those billionaires, they actually campaigned against it.
Wait.
Yep. Told people to vote no on the bond, used all this crazy language, said the schools were a mess, total out of touch.
So it's like they want public schools to fail. Because then, if parents don't trust the schools, they'll want other choices. Private schools, charter schools. That voucher thing those billionaires want. Is that what's going on?
You got it. And it's not just a guess. Our sources actually quote this guy, Zachary Maxwell. Worked for Mike Lang, remember? The state rep who wanted Gore to run. Maxwell said it straight up. Destroy the trust to the point where they would tolerate something like doing away with public schools.
Wow. Okay, that's a direct quote, people.
Yeah.
And it's kind of scary when you really think about it. But here's the thing. Gore is seeing this happen. She's right there.
Yeah.
And she's not going along with it. She starts pushing back, even though it could mean losing her political friends, even getting in trouble.
And I'm not talking about mean tweets either. This got real. Threats, intimidation, the kind of stuff that makes you scared for yourself and your family. There was this one school board meeting.
Yeah, this is where it gets intense.
Right. This guy shows up, lives in the area. Oh, and he's the grandfather of Gore's old campaign consultant.
You can't make this stuff up.
And he's got a gun, or at least it looks like he does.
Hold on, are you serious? Like, in the meeting?
Yep. This guy, Cliff Criswell, he doesn't even try to hide it. Starts saying things like, we have profile sheets on all the board members. We know where you live, that kind of stuff.
Man, that's terrifying. Can you imagine? You're just trying to do your job, make decisions about your local schools, and you've got people with guns threatening your family.
It shows you how serious this is, this fight over education. It's not just some debate anymore. It's about real people being scared just for doing their jobs.
So what does she do?
Gore went public, told everyone what was going on, even though it meant her old political friends would turn on her. It was risky.
That takes guts, especially in Texas, where politics are, like life or death, and being loyal to your party is everything. But this whole thing, it's bigger than just politics, right? This is about what we believe about education. Do we still think public schools are important for our democracy?
You're totally right. What's so interesting about Gore is that she shows us how hard it is to choose between doing what you think is right and being loyal. She was part of this movement, and then she had to choose. Keep quiet, or say something, and maybe lose everything.
And she spoke out, even when it was hard, even when it meant people she was close to might not be her friends anymore. So what happens to Granbury, to this whole movement? Did Gore change anything? So even with Gore saying, hey, something's not right here, even with her, putting herself out there to warn people, didn't stop it, did it? They still went after those schools in Granbury.
Nope. And remember those bond measures, the ones to actually make the schools better?
Right.
Yeah, both of them failed.
Wow.
And I mean, we can't say for sure what everyone was thinking when they voted.
Right.
But Gore's old pals, the ones who fought so hard against those bonds, yeah, they definitely had something to do with it.
It's like they got to people, made them think the schools didn't need the help, or that the board was just being careless with their money.
Textbook example of how this works. Make people distrust the schools, then come in with this other option, like vouchers, and boom, you're on your way to getting rid of public education altogether.
It's sneaky. First, convince everyone something's broken, even if it ain't true. Then offer this simple solution. Just take your money and go. Private school, religious school, whatever. But those private schools, they don't got to take every kid.
Exactly. They don't answer to voters the way public schools do.
Big difference.
This isn't about different ways of teaching. It's about what we value as a society. Do we think all kids deserve a good education no matter who they are or where they live? Or is it all about individual choice, even if some kids get left behind?
And then there's Gore, right in the thick of it. She didn't just, become a liberal or something.
No.
She just couldn't deal with how they were doing things, how the goal seemed to be to just get rid of public schools altogether, even if it hurt the people they were saying they were trying to help.
It's more complicated and honestly more interesting than that. She was still conservative, but she couldn't go along with a movement that seemed more about power than about actually helping students.
Like she had to decide, am I going to be loyal or am I going to listen to what I know is right? Not an easy choice.
And she didn't just disappear after all that. Get this. Gore ended up endorsing Nancy Alana, the woman she ran against, in a later election.
No way, really?
Yep. They realized they both cared about the schools and wanted what was best for the students. Pretty cool to see, right? Even with all this arguing, even when it feels like everyone's got to pick a side, you can still find common ground.
It's like, what's that saying? The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Or, the person who also sees through the BS is my friend, even if we don't agree on everything else.
Ah, I like that. And that's why this whole story is important for all of us, no matter what our politics are. It makes us think. Where do we draw the line? When do we say enough? Even if it means disagreeing with our own people, our own party, even our own family. Tough questions, but we got to ask them, especially now when it's so easy to just stick with our own side and not listen to anyone else.
It's easy to get stuck in that echo chamber, right? Where
Yeah.
everything you see and hear just tells you you're right and everyone else is wrong. But Gore shows us that sometimes the truth is somewhere else, You got to be brave enough to ask questions, to look deeper, to change your mind. So think about Courtney Gore's story. Ask yourself, why am I hearing this? Who wants me to believe it? And am I willing to think differently, even if it's not the easy thing to do? That's something to think about.